Hello and welcome to Rock Paper Shotgun. My name is Colm Ahern, and joining me today on this very special edition of the PC Gaming Weekspot pre-show, the part of the show that everyone loves, they adore, it's Mr. Matthew Castle. Hello, Matthew.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. Thank you.
So this is a little bit different. Because Matthew is wearing a tux. He's decided to dress up for the occasion.
And neither of us are wearing trousers.
So we're not live. This is pre-record, but live to tape. We're not going to take if Matthew says anything outlandish, which he's likely to say. He's a loose cannon. It will stay in the show. Just because of scheduling and whatnot, we weren't able to do it live on the internet. But you're still going to get
like it's real.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean,
I'll just think that we're ignoring you. I tell you what, every once in a while I'll do this. Oh, nice one. Things like that, just to give the illusion of, classic. That is classic chat.
I mean, if you wanted to, we could we could pretend and just like I could delete this video and we could start again and just pretend we're live and maybe see if we probably could have got away with it, really.
It's fine doing like this. Thanks for the donation, Mog.
Because no, if Mog hasn't given us a donation, they'll feel like obliged.
It's honestly, thank you for your previous donations.
Yes.
If you haven't done it today, we won't take that as a slight.
That's fine. That's perfectly okay.
It's time for tightening of the belt.
Yep, the belt. Yep, we tighten the money belt.
Yes.
So that's perfectly fine.
I took a bum bag with all my money in it.
Bum bags, they're not all the rage anymore. I mean, I'm sure the first time you were watching The Simpsons and Marge Simpson referred to a fanny pack, you went, "I'm sorry, what?" Which I was certainly taken aback.
I wrote a letter of complaint.
To right, yeah.
The Simpsons.
This is outrageous, Matthew grinning.
Do you remember that famous picture of The Rock with a bum bag?
I do.
You know that the young Rock picture
where he's standing by the stairs with the hand on the hip.
Young and handsome. He's got a bum bag. That's classic.
Classic Rock. Classic bum bag antics.
I'd say that is the definitive bum bag artifact.
Yeah, I couldn't disagree with you.
Is there a more iconic,
more iconic bum bag photograph? Don't think so. I think when it was around the rocks. Why is it not called like a belly bag?
I thought you would say, why is it called the Rock?
Why isn't it called a belly bag though? Like what? Surely, because like it.
You're not meant to have it around the back above your bum. Because
sitting on your arse.
You can't see all the thieves taking
and all the burglars coming in and going
I mean that is the least secure. I would say the least secure bit of my body is
your
my
arse.
At all. That is where. That is my what's like the fuel exhaust on the Death Star or whatever it is that they shoot that bomb down.
It's that.
If you want to blow up the Death Star, that is me. You have to fire a proton torpedo up my arse.
And with that, welcome everyone to the PC Gaming Weekspot. Hello and welcome to the PC Gaming Weekspot, your recap of the last 7 days in PC video gaming. My name is Colm Ahern, and joining me today, as always, is a man who cannot be locked down. He will not be refused to roam his land. It is the one, the only. It's Mr. Matthew Castle.
Hello.
Hello,
You've made
Matthew.
me sound like fucking Farage there.
I have,
like I'm part of the anti-lockdown brigade.
I apologize. I have. Yeah, no, I was just trying to make a link to
I know
talk
you were trying
to.
to give me a bit of like a wrestler intro or something, but
No, Matthew will be adhering to the lockdown, as I will be.
I really, I admire,
and you should be too. You should be too.
I admire and respect the man.
Mm-hmm. Yes. But look, if it has to be done, Matthew, we'll do it until early December and probably late December and early January. It's gonna be like this for a while, but that's okay. It shouldn't affect the PC Gaming Weekspot.
Someone should be able to do like a killer Christmas pop song about like I guarantee there'll be like a lockdown Christmas and it'll go to #1.
Well,
like there's that lonely.
Do they know it's lockdown again?
I was thinking more that it's gonna be lonely this Christmas without
we're locked indoors.
Yeah. I would go for that kind of vibe.
Right? Yeah. No, listen, we'll put maybe if the people, the viewers and listeners back us, we could
that's
release
the RPS Christmas #1 single.
That would be good. Although we'd probably be up against like the military wives and stuff, and I don't know if we would garner as much.
We haven't got a good sub story. I guess I lost my job. That's something.
You are
the Matthew.
Let him know it's dinner time again.
Yeah,
I think that. Well, speaking of feeding you, Matthew, and getting into what happened in the last 7 days in video games,
it's time ready.
It's time to talk the news and ask you to crank open that little news gob of yours, because I've got some information snacks for you.
Info snacks for his gob.
So, some little stories for you, Matthew, before we get into the big happenings. After missing its 26th of October release date, World of Warcraft Shadowlands is now scheduled to launch on the 23rd of November. A video game that a lot of people care about, or an expansion, I suppose, but probably neither I nor you. But that's fine. That is totally fine.
1 second of World of Warcraft. It's my hot take.
Yeah, I as well. EA faces a €10 million fine over selling FIFA Ultimate Team packs in the Netherlands. So cast your mind back 2 years, Matthew, to 2018, when the Netherlands Gaming Authority determined that 4 companies were violating the nation's gambling laws. And it appears that the 3 others who weren't named in the initial lawsuit filing thing, because EA weren't either, it was just 4 companies, but now we've learned that EA were one of the companies, because it's come to light that EA could be fined €10 million. They're going to be appealing it like it's a VAR decision, but I don't know. We will find out. The loot box argument, that's kind of, I feel like that was a weekly occurrence for a while, but it has definitely quietened down a bit, hasn't it? I don't think you see as much about loot boxes lately.
Everyone just knows where they stand on them,
I suppose, yeah. Baldur's Gate 3 developer Larian Studios said in a previous update that the human wizard, Gale, was the most murdered NPC in the game. He has a, quote, party member kill rate that's 4 times higher than any other NPC in the game. But also, this Gale character, everyone finds him dead sexy, because 33% of players have shagged Gale, with Shadowheart coming in second with 31%. So, Matthew, the big question is, does this Gale, do they do it for you? Have you shagged Gale?
I've romanced him. I think we had a little magical kiss. I've been trying to romance everyone. Shadowheart was having absolutely none of it. I'm surprised the figure's that high, because she strikes me as quite sort of stony.
Yeah.
She's not into it at all. I don't know what the key to her sort of heart is.
Yeah. Can you, in Baldur's Gate 3, can you just romance everyone? Or is it like Mass Effect where...
Chapter, and I think the problem is that they're all different moral alignments. So the kind of things you need to say and do to impress one will unimpress the other. So it's almost like you need to commit. It's not like Mass Effect where, like,
once you've chosen that one, you can't.
Room, and I felt like basically Mass Effect 2, I got everyone to the kind of shag zone. So when it got to romance time, because it basically happens at the same time, doesn't it? You basically have to pick someone for romance. Yeah. But like, you know, there are people who hated each other, but they both loved me because you can get away with it. I don't know if that's the same in Baldur's Gate. Like, I feel that trying to impress Gale has upset Shadowheart, and I don't know if you can romance Lae'zel, the Gith Yankee warrior. She's pretty stern. I can't impress her no matter what I do, so I just sort of gave up.
A Vampire the Masquerade Battle Royale got announced at the weekend, and I think that's a bit weird, isn't it? I mean, a series that is known for its dialogue, its setting, to just be like, I don't know, we're going to throw a load of vampires on the map and kill each other. Seems like it goes against the
they've got fun powers, like the slight kind of I guess sort of dilemma or whatever at the heart of Vampire is that it's a game with a lot of talking, a lot of storytelling, but you also have these incredibly violent powers, and you know, the more of those you use, obviously the less of the all that good writing you're going to be getting, because you're going to be constantly sort of hostile with people. So I could sort of see the appeal, but I mean, you know, they should really focus on getting
Bloodlines 2.
Bloodlines 2, yeah. I mean, to be fair, they seem to give that license out like to everyone about every 3 weeks. There have been so many World of Darkness games. It's pretty mad at the moment. Just one everyone wants.
And a big video game got delayed in the last week, but we're going to talk about that in a second, because there's been another game that got delayed basically because of that big game that got delayed. Grinding Gear Games' Path of Exile was meant to have an expansion called 313, which was out on the 11th of December, but they've now postponed it until January of next year. The CEO, Chris Wilson, wrote in a post on the Path of Exile forums, "We do not want to put our players in a position of having to choose between these two games, so we have decided to step out of the way and delay the release of Path of Exile 313 until January." I think Wilson is... Like, I don't know how much crossover there is between Cyberpunk and Path of Exile. And it doesn't really matter what he said, you know, about saying, oh, we don't want to put players in a position where they have to choose or whatever. Because I think most people, regardless of whatever the game is, they're going to be choosing Cyberpunk, or at least that's what, you know, the internet, that's what the internet has told me. But it's still, like, if I was them, I'd get out of the way. Like, I do feel sorry, I suppose, for the medium, which is now...
I don't know. I think they're suitably different things. Like, Cyberpunk's going to be big, but it's not going to be every gamer on the planet is playing it.
No.
So, you know, it's not going to be an all-encompassing thing. And, you know, Path of Exile is free to play. So, like, I still think lots of people will go with the free thing that they know to like. Like, the kind of person who's going to be excited for the expansion is someone who is already playing a shitload of Path of Exile. I don't know if they can be tempted away by a 60 quid game. They've shown themselves to be a free-to-play fan. Who knows? But
yeah, indeed.
And how cross will they be when it gets delayed again?
So that's all your little information snacks, Matthew. So
that was a nice sort of entree.
Well, now it's time for the main course, my friend, as we get into headlines and hot takes. Yes, this is the part of the show where we talk about the news of the last 7 days, the stories that have got everyone talking. And there has been a lot over the last week, but I think we have we provide a service here on the PC Gaming Weekspot, Matthew, and that is to tell people what's been happening, because maybe they might have missed a story, or they might have go, oh my God, is that, well, what's happening in video games? I don't know. Well, let me tell you that, and I know this is going to come, I hope you're sitting down. even though we've just referenced it in the previous bit. Cyberpunk. Yeah, good. Be shocked when I say the game. Cyberpunk 2077 has been delayed. Yes, Cyberpunk, which was meant to be out on what date was it? The 19th of November, is now going to be out on the 10th of December, 3 weeks later than its planned release. So let me take you. This is going to be a little bit of story time, Matthew, because there's a lot to unpack when it comes to this delay. So first of all, CD Projekt Red made the announcement on the Cyberpunk Twitter last Tuesday, and quite a long statement, but here's the relevant bit from it. The biggest challenge for us right now is shipping the game on current gen, next gen, and PC at the same time, which requires us to prepare and test 9 versions of it while working from home. Since Cyberpunk 2077 evolved towards almost being a next-gen title somewhere along the way, we need to make sure everything works well and every version runs smoothly. We're aware it might seem unrealistic when someone says that 21 days can make any difference in such a massive and complex game, but they really do. Some of you might also be wondering what these words mean in light of us saying we achieved Gold Master some time ago. Passing certification, or going gold, means the game is ready, can be completed and has all the content in it, but it doesn't mean we stop working on it and raising the quality bar. On the contrary, this is the time where many improvements are being made, which will then be distributed via Day Zero patch. This is the time period we undercalculated. So that's part 1. Here's part 2.
Gold Master.
They were getting a lot of threats. All the people working on the game, like, how dare you delay this game, so on and so forth. So senior game designer Andrzej Zawadzki, they took to Twitter and said, I understand you're feeling angry, disappointed, and want to voice your opinion about it. However, sending death threats to the developers is absolutely unacceptable and just wrong. We are people just like you. But hang on a second, Matthew, there's a part 3A as well. Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, who last month broke the story about the crunching the CD Projekt Red were doing, he tweeted when all this was breaking, he said, all of the developers at Cyberpunk found out at the same time we did. The developer sent an internal email simultaneously with the public tweet. And he followed this up with a tweet that said, the email said they couldn't share the news earlier because of stock regulations. And he also added that many people had told him that they were going to be crunching into December anyway. And one developer said that they just worked a 100-hour week. And here's part 3B. So CD Projekt Red CEO Adam Kaczynski and board member Mikhail Nowakowski got there in the end. They had a Q&A with investors, and Kaczynski was asked about how much crunching the team would have to do. And they said, some people have been crunching heavily, but a large part of the team is not crunching at all since they finished their work. It's mostly about Q&A and engineers, programmers, but it's not that heavy. Of course, it will be extended a bit, but we have feedback from the team. They're happy about the extra 3 weeks, so we don't see any threats regarding crunch. Then, after this, Kaczynski, he sent an email out to staff because staff were going, hang on a second here. And Kaczynski said, I had not wanted to comment on crunch during this investor call, yet I still did. And I did it in a demeaning and harmful way. What I said was not even unfortunate. It was utterly bad. And this is also, part 3C maybe, but during the investors call, one of the investors asked him, will this game definitely come out on the 10th of December? And Kaczynski said, that's more or less what I'm saying, I guess. Yes.
Oh, great.
So, Matthew Castle, an awful lot to unpack here. I'm going to start off with the biggie first. Does Cyberpunk 2077 come out on the 10th of December?
I'm willing to say yes, though I think they're basically setting everyone up for the current gen version is an absolute pig. That's what this read like to me. PC, next gen, fine. getting something to run on this old hardware is proving nightmarish for them. That's I think they've even said that elsewhere, that like the PC and the next gen versions are basically ready to go. They're not what's holding it up.
Yeah.
I think they'll just have to get it done, get it out there, and Digital Foundry are going to be like, oh my god, when they play the Xbox One and PS4 version. It's how I feel it's going. So I think on PC it doesn't affect us as much. So selfishly, I'm like, yeah, I just don't think they can keep doing these little pushbacks.
Well, it was going to be ready for years and years. Like, this is a game that was first revealed in 2012. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think, and from then it was like, this will be ready when it's ready. Don't talk to us. We're going to be promoting The Witcher 3 and all that. So, forget about Cyberpunk for a while. Then we got a release date of April this year. Then that was pushed to September. Then that was pushed to November, and now it's been pushed to December again.
I think they do themselves the second they put any kind of date on this.
Yeah.
Maybe they wanted to start getting that pre-order money in. Like, maybe that was important. I don't know how. I don't know how they finance themselves and whether they're just comfortable because of The Witcher. But yeah, this was a game which, I mean, when they showed it off for the very first time, whenever it was a couple of years ago, I remember thinking, oh, this doesn't feel like a finish. This feels like too polished, and it feels like a very specific, like, vertical slice. It's what they're aiming for. This game maybe doesn't exist much outside of this. The fact that there are features from that demo that are no longer in the game, that they've taken them out, would sort of support that as well. And it would have been fine. Like, it was going to be a big next gen thing. Like, I was actually surprised it was on current gen.
Yeah.
Given what they were aiming for visually, it's beyond, definitely the demos we've seen. I was like, there's no way that's going to be run on Xbox One, which is just, so creaky and old now.
I find, I'm leaning towards this won't be out on the 10th of December. Because, to be fair, this is pure speculation. I don't know. But you don't often get many big video game releases in December. And I'm not sure if that is because, I don't know, because of sales. I don't know why. But like, one theory I have is that, you want to be able to release a Game of the Year edition a few months later, and if you're releasing late in December, then you're putting that at risk. You are like, potentially, and that's why I like the 10th of December. Maybe you might squeak in, but if it's such a massive game, I don't know. I could see them potentially holding off and trying to push this into next year. But not solely because of that reason, but
don't want it hanging over them over Christmas. That's going to be rough on their team. I think fundamentally with this game, it doesn't really matter when they release it. Like, I honestly think it's just like a done deal in terms of success. Like, the buzz around it, and when you're into death threats for delaying it territory, it shows horribly the appetite for it. I think they can have, I don't think there's any logic about like, December's a dangerous month for releasing things. I mean, I think whenever this comes out, it sells. It seems that big.
That is fair. Like, it's so massive that, of course, they could release it whenever. They could release it during a pandemic and a lockdown, and I'd imagine it would be quite successful.
Yeah.
But, like their main mistake was dating it, I suppose.
I just don't think they should have done that. That was not, it was when they announced April, that felt surprisingly early. There was no need. I think they should have at least waited for the next gen release dates and then said, then they should treat it like it's a next gen game. I think, people who buy next gen machines are actually pretty. It's pretty sparse, collection of things for them to actually buy. There's not a lot out there which feels of the next gen. This could, based on what we've seen, comfortably be it. Just in April never made sense for this in my head, but
I mean, the other side of the story is the crunch, obviously, and how poorly it was worded by the CEO when it's like it's not that bad, which obviously angered a couple of people.
It's tricky. It's a tricky one because of by all accounts, some of the investor call, there's like some weird translation stuff going on, and it's kind of hard to judge the tone of what they actually said. Right. Also, with all this stuff, it seems mad that the justification for the crunch was just to get it done for that date, and now it's slipping, and the implications is they're just going to keep crunching. If they're still having to do this mega crunch for it, I mean, we said this earlier on when we were discussing this a few weeks ago. There's no game that is so vital or important that it can't come out whenever.
Yeah, and in particular, this one with what we've just said.
Yeah, I mean, not the health of your staff and the well-being of your staff isn't, just doesn't not worth throwing away. I mean, for something like that. So I hope they just push it back until it's actually done. And also, they should push it back just to say fuck you to the death threat people, because I'd say for every death threat we get, we're pushing it back a day, and we're going to tell you who it came from, so you'll know who's responsible. It's these fuckers. Imagine sending a death threat over a video. I mean,
it's obviously like I can't. I genuinely can't imagine. All right, when you're really looking forward to something and it gets delayed, and let's say you booked holiday off work or whatever, it's a bit disappointing. Fuck, that's life. I'm sorry. There are people who are trying their. It's not like they're going, no, we're okay. We're going to wait another couple of weeks, actually.
I know, well, there's slightly bigger things to deal with right now than
exactly. So,
video games.
Obviously, it goes without saying, don't send death threats, you absolute moron.
Anyone who watches this would never ever send a death threat. If you're subscribed to this channel, you won't send a death threat.
Yeah, no,
I'm amazed these people who send death threats are even kind of intellectually capable of using a computer to send the email in the first place. And we're talking about real pond scum here. So
100%. The fact that the team didn't hear about it until the public heard about it. At first, that does sound horrible, and it is horrible. You're going like, "Wow, we were doing all this crunch, and now it's been pushed back." But from my understanding of it, it was down to like the stocks have fallen by 25%, but I think it was something to do with like insider trading, and I don't know, maybe Bobby Axelrod would have gotten involved in some. I don't know, but it was something to do with
fucking Bobby Axelrod.
They couldn't let staff know for that very reason and go, Did you hear? Cyberpunk's been delayed. All right, yeah. Buy, sell, whatever. I don't. Yeah. I don't know.
Alice Bell wrote a good piece about that investor call on RPS, which highlighted that one of one of the strengths of CD Projekt Red, and also one of what's now come back to bite them on the arse, is this like love of transparency and putting stuff forward, where actually it's too volatile industry in a situation to do these things. I'm not saying you have to be like a shutdown kind of evil kind of PR machine, like your bigger publishers, where it just takes all the joy out of it. But I wonder if they will reappraise the need to be so open with information that they don't, and dates they can't necessarily adhere to and stick to. Yeah, it's tricky. Just come back to bite them on the arse a little bit.
I mean, I did say this a while ago, but I do feel a bit sorry for the medium, which is Bloober Teams.
I thought you were talking about video games as a whole. I feel they've damaged the medium of video games.
Bloober Team's horror.
Yeah,
I don't know, Dark World and because that was always come out on the 10th of December, and I was like, oh shit. Right. But again,
I thought that had been delayed to December itself.
Oh, has it? All right.
I thought it was going to be a launch title for like Xbox.
Maybe either way, they're now going to be facing Cyberpunk on the same date.
Yeah,
so.
I mean,
different audiences maybe. Different audiences perhaps.
You know, if anything, it's freed up November for the people who want to get into their 100-hour Assassin's Creed or Watchdogs or Yakuza Like a Dragon. It's a good thing. It's a good thing for a lot of hopefully good games.
Most definitely. But yeah, we'll I don't know. There'll be more, I'd imagine, in the coming 3 weeks prior to.
I'm just fucking sick of talking about Cyberpunk, really. Well, I know it's big, but also it's not the most interesting thing at the moment, and there are plenty of other good games coming out that I'm more interested and excited for. So,
well, I'm more interested by sort of the behind the scenes right now when it comes to Cyberpunk because of everything that's going on.
I feel bad. I feel bad. You know, I know none of them are watching this because they're all busy being crunched into the grave.
I mean, yeah.
But you know, I hope they're okay.
Yeah, stay strong, CD Projekt Red. But that wasn't the only video game that was delayed in the last week, Matthew. There were two from Ubisoft. Firstly, Far Cry 6, which was meant to be coming out in February. There was no there was eventually, but the initial launch, the initial announcement of a delay came from, again, an earnings report. It's that time of the year. And both Far Cry 6 and Rainbow Six Quarantine will be coming out after the 1st of April 2021. The Far Cry 6 Twitter account tweeted this after this news came out. And it said, earlier this year, we introduced you to Far Cry 6, the most ambitious game in the series to date. We promised an immersive fantasy to lead a modern-day guerrilla revolution to set in a rich and exotic world filled with memorable moments, killer characters, and an epic story. While we know you're all anxious to get your hands on Far Cry 6, we want to let you know that we've been given more time to allow us to make this game. We've given more time to allow us to make this the game you aspire to play while focusing on the well-being of our teams in this unprecedented global context. So if we take Far Cry 6 first. If we take them at their word, then I suppose it's fair to say that Ubisoft are actually doing something good here. Because it's mentioning the pandemic, of course, but they're saying talking about the well-being of our staff as well. So otherwise we'd have to basically what they're saying is it's either crunch or delay, and we have been given the green light to delay it. So I think a positive move from a company that hasn't had many positive stories about it in the last couple of weeks, months even.
Yeah, I imagine that's the case. Just trying to kind of get a bit of cred back. I mean, they've done this a lot recently. I think the last couple of years, most Ubisoft stuff has been delayed.
Yeah.
They're either not quite there. I wonder if a lot of times it's because they're working in these quite creaky franchises now. And there's, I don't know if they're beginning to see diminishing returns, or you're beginning to feel the strain of those old ideas a little bit. And actually, when it comes together, you hit this point.
Assets.
Well, that's it. You hit this point about a year before the game's out, and maybe your focus testing is a little bit it's beginning to feel a bit old, a little bit unfocused, and they're just having to go through. And maybe that's changing that's entirely speculation, but you wonder if that's changing their process a bit. I mean, I think Watchdogs Legion had to, not go back to the drawing board, but had a bit of work done on it after it had been seen. Obviously, Far Cry 6, we've only seen a movie, so we have no idea. But
yeah, it's got Gus Fring in it, and that's good.
I don't know. I hope. Yeah, I hope the extra time is. obviously good for the people who are making it. I hope it means it's a bit more of an interesting game than the last few. Far Cry isn't a series I care massively for.
It's a series I care massively. I love the charismatic, sadistic villain. I very much Far Cry, and it's because of Vass, really, you know. Like, and I'd imagine that they couldn't have expected the popularity that he would have, and also the success that the actor himself would go on to have. So, like, they're probably kicking themselves now for. Well, I'll say no more in case you haven't played Far Cry 3. And
I
indeed, what I will go to instead, Matthew, is talking about the other game that Ubisoft have delayed. Do you remember this? Oh, it was a different time, Matthew. It was the summer of 2019 when the word quarantine, some people even went, what does that mean? Well, we know now. Rainbow Six Quarantine, Rainbow Six... yeah, that's the name of it, was first shown off at E3 2019, and we haven't really seen much since. We know it was like, it was a co-op 3-player shooter where, there was some virus involved, and we haven't actually, all we know is this game is scheduled to launch next year, sometime after April 1st, and that's kind of it. We know very little else. But the only thing we do know, Matthew, is that who wants to be launching a game with a suffix quarantine? And nobody is the answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, this is a weird one because it's another project which I think, isn't it like, didn't it start as something else and it became this, and it feels like it's still sort of finding its feet. No one really knows 100% what it's meant to be. And they're just kind of, tightening the bolts probably behind the scenes. And I know, obviously you don't want to be releasing a game called something Quarantine right now. But I get the feeling this is another one that's probably, they're just trying to make sure it's like right.
Like, but I think that like they have to change the name. Like you have to change. There is no way. Like if I'm making a game about some sort of virus or like, even remember that was Resident Evil 3, wasn't it? The start of that, where the news reporter is there and talking about, like, using words like pandemic, quarantine. I know these words haven't been invented in 2020, but to the general public, they might as well have been. And they have negative connotations and make them think about, oh, we didn't get to see Granny for 7 months or whatever. Like, I think maybe... Go on.
But that's like saying, games shouldn't lean into anything that's happened in real life, and you're like, well, what about all the war games?
But the thing is, I'm not saying that they shouldn't lean into things in real life, but from a business perspective, from a sales perspective, like after 9/11 happened, things were delayed, films were delayed, where like there was a terrorist attack, there was a whatever. I'm trying to think, even a game. What game did Watchdogs get delayed because of something? Some game definitely got delayed the last time there was an attack in London. That wouldn't have been Watchdogs. What would that have been? But
there was stuff with the last Call of Duty had bombs. It didn't have bombs in like Piccadilly Circus.
Yeah.
But there it's just like, oh, edgy.
Like, I know this isn't like, this is, I don't know, this is aliens or some shit in it. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
Like you can't necessarily say it's equal to the coronavirus.
I mean, it's not about, changing the names. They changed Gods and Monsters quite happily recently. I mean, Jesus. I don't think anyone's particularly attached to Quarantine. It's not a particularly exciting name.
I just think you would be silly to call your game Quarantine. Just call it fucking alien virus. Oh my god, we're all dying. It'd be an exciting.
I'm sure Ubisoft will take that one on board.
Add a bit of color to the Rainbow Six franchise. Matthew Castle, a game whose color was very upsetting, and its environments and everything about it upsetting to the general public when it was showing off. Halo Infinite. Well, talk about, troubled development. It's lost a director in Chris Lee, and this is the third director, I believe, that this game has lost. Chris, I'm talking about, he's left the team. But he's still working within Microsoft. So Lee, when he was asked about this, he was talking to Bloomberg. He said, "I have stepped back from Infinite and I am looking at future opportunities. I believe in the team and I'm confident they will deliver a great game, and now is a good time for me to step away." Is it? Now seems like a very odd time to step away. I'm not too sure.
When I saw this one, I when we chatted about this a few months ago, I didn't think it was as necessarily busted as a lot of people thought, but that is not a good sign, is it?
It's not good. No, it isn't.
I think Microsoft's got a real legacy problem with Halo in that because it used to be an absolutely massive thing for them. Used to be, and it still sells really well, but it's nowhere near the sort of phenomenon it once was. Like I don't think, for example, it's maintained the kind of quality and affection that like Nintendo have maintained with Mario and Sony have maintained with, let's just say, Naughty Dog, who are kind of like, I would say, their definitive studio, like your Uncharted or whatever.
Yeah.
The last two Halos, basically post Bungie, Halo has been on the decline, and it feels like a massive company. It doesn't really know how to make more Halo. Doesn't really know, they just tried to build this Halo studio. And I liked Halo 4 and 5 absolutely fine. Like, I actually think 4 was pretty good. But they've got this huge legacy hanging over them, and I think it stifles a lot of thinking. I think they're like overly nostalgic. I think they're attached to the wrong things. I think it's a studio made up of Halo fans, which, while that may sound like it makes sense, I think can be death for something, because you end up, the fans don't always know what's best for something. I think it's the reason Halo, since Bungie's become this incredibly overinflated like lore hole, because the people who are in charge of Halo are so into it. They're into all that crap.
All the novels and everything.
All that shit. Yeah, they think it's this giant... Like, Halo 5 was such a mess in that regard, because it had that little Ridley Scott TV show, and there was some anime. And you had to read stuff to understand the game, and I was like, that's kind of unacceptable.
Oh, it's terrible, yeah.
I'd hoped that this was going to be a kind of back to basics. The fact that they're back on the Halo ring again, and it kind of looks like the older Halo. It looked like it could have some, you could have some real fun with that. But I still think, I don't know, just a troubled. It just feels like a troubled studio. The fact they've had so many creative people in and out, and good people. I don't think any of them are particularly bad or anything. I just think it's a bit of a mess. They're terrified of messing it up, and that fear has like messed it up, ironically.
And I suppose, they're more terrified of messing it up because of what happened in June as well, and because of everyone going, "Oh, Craig!"
That's the worst thing that could happen to, I'd say, like, not an unstable team, but a team that was already in a very awkward place and has been basically since its creation. It cannot take major upsets, like everyone deciding they hate your new game that you've been working on for 4 years or whatever, just from a bad 10-minute demo. But like, I must admit, like, when we did those little behind the scenes interviews, I thought the team spoke terribly about it. I thought they did, like, considering it was their first chance to talk about it, I did not feel like, wow, this is an inspirational group of people. I mean, no offense to them, but like, maybe they were stuck with like PR guidelines or whatever. But considering this was a game that was meant to be coming out in 3 months at that time, the way they talked about it just didn't like impress me at all. I just didn't feel any love or passion. But
in saying that, when it was showing off, we got the gameplay demo. don't know. But then see, I don't have any attachment to Halo, but I thought it looked fine. I didn't.
It is fine. Yeah, and that's the whole thing of like, oh, does it look good? Or, different people have different takes on that. I think it looks absolutely fine, but like when they spoke about it, I wasn't like, wow, what? Like, I'm so glad this guy's involved. Like sometimes you do when you meet developers, you're like, yeah, whatever the game ends up being, like this person is clearly like really, really into it, and it was so corporate and cold what they said. I was surprised. Like, I'd rather they hadn't have done those interviews. I would have felt better about the whole thing. But now that guy's not there anymore, so.
So to ask you a question, I asked you in relation to Cyberpunk 2077. Does Halo Infinite launch in 2021?
I think it kind of has to, because they don't have any first-party games. Otherwise,
Yeah, I am the exact same as you. I'm not even too sure if it does, but it has to. It really does have to.
I wonder if there comes a bit where they go, do they pull the ultimate trigger and say, this is a next-gen game, it's not on Xbox One?
Maybe.
Because what's limiting it will be that. Halo 5 didn't run brilliantly on Xbox One, and that was a game from 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Made specifically for that machine, a thing which is designed for something that's more powerful. I don't know. But we're a PC, that's, whatever. It'll run great on PC.
Yeah, it will. It will be decent on PC. A video game that we're not entirely sure if it's coming to PC. We're pretty sure, but we're not entirely sure. But Matthew, it has a protagonist, and the protagonist's name is Clive. What the fuck is this shit? Final Fantasy 16. We got some bit of a news blast during the week about this video game that I'm sure some people would be excited about, and it is staggering. And I just wanted you to clarify a couple of these points for me. So Naoki Yoshida, the producer of the game, he wrote a little blog on the PlayStation blog talking about the three characters, I suppose, involved. I think it's Jill, Joshua, who's a little child, and Clive, who is the protagonist, a protagonist named Clive. Joshua, however, the little boy, his description I thought was interesting. So Joshua was described as, even though he was born into royalty, Joshua treats everyone with kindness. But he does have his childlike side too, with a particular dislike of carrots. Matthew, what? Can you explain to me? I understand. I'm a big fan of the video game series where the tough guy hides in a cardboard box. But what's this about? Are you excited for Final Fantasy 16 and getting to play as Clive?
Yeah, I've got no problems with Clive. This is a series which has had. In fact, I'd rather normal names than like dumb Final Fantasy names. They've got a famous character called Sid. It's not like Clive isn't that cutting edge. Yeah, I'm up for this. I'm mainly up for it because the people, the main kind of force behind it, people really vouch for his work in Final Fantasy 14, which is a game I'm not familiar with. I haven't played it, but everyone keeps telling me, oh, it's actually, it's an MMO, but it's actually the best Final Fantasy story. It's the best Final Fantasy kind of campaign, that there's been for many, many years since the kind of, your kind of golden era of sort of PS1, PS2, I guess. So like the right people have vouched for this that make me excited for it, if that makes sense. People who I trust on the subject of Final Fantasy, them having simple names, I prefer that to them having dumb. Is it a big turn off for you? It's fine. No, to be honest with you, I just thought we were going to have a bit of a laugh with this, but it turned out. No, be sincere about it.
No. Sincerity is good, Matthew. I try and get sincerity out of you 99% of the time. But no, I'm glad to hear that you're looking forward.
Yeah, I'm up for it. I think it could be like slightly pared back, a bit more sort of simple, a bit sort of broader in its in how it kind of presents itself, less of the kind of nonsense or distracted kind of detail. Just focus on some good storytelling. I like the look of the world. Yeah, I'm up for this.
Angry Man Clive. I mean, he does. He looks good. We'll give Clive
It's not that bad a name.
It's not. It's all right. Now I think we've been on the straight and narrow, Matthew.
Yeah.
What's that I see coming up ahead? Is that a 90-degree angle? It's time for Tech Corner, boys and girls.
Shit,
no. And quite a big Tech Corner this week, as AMD, they have shown off their Radeon RX 6000 series graphics cards. So this happened last Tuesday, and we have some numbers and some dollar amounts and all that. So the top range card is the RX 6900 XT, which is out on the 8th of December and will cost $999. Now, the equivalent NVIDIA card is the 3090, which is going to cost you $1,499. So quite a difference there. The middle card is the RX 6800 XT, which is out on the 18th of November. That's $649, which again is cheaper than NVIDIA's equivalent, which is the 3080, and $699. Not as big a saving, but still a saving. And the bottom card is the RX 6800, which is also out on the 18th of November and will cost you $579. So more expensive than the 3070, which is $499. Matthew Castle. Matthew Castle. I know that you are very much looking forward to these graphics cards, and you have plenty to say, maybe as some form of conduit, perhaps for somebody else who has told you about these, or maybe not. Maybe not. Your head shaking tells me that you don't, and that's fine. But I would ask you, because we can get into the nitty gritty of this now. 6800, 3070. What's your own personal favorite number?
That's tricky, isn't it?
What would be on the back of your jersey?
I was born in 1985. 85. Okay. 85 sounds good, doesn't it?
I mean, it don't but
summer of 85.
As Brian Adams said, yeah. I mean, my favorite maybe would be 5. I'm a fan of 5. You know, it's a nice. People like getting things in 5s. If I
8.
was, what?
85.
No, just 5. Just 5. Because as well, I think on the back of the jersey as well, it's just like a Hearn 5. Be a centre half as well. Decking
Castle,
lads.
85.
85. Well, as an American football player, maybe you'd fit in with an 85. Would you? Have you ever dabbled?
Lost on me. Do they have a limit on numbers over here in football?
No, they don't have a limit, but it would be very rare and odd to see a player in the regular rotation to have an 85. I mean, he can. If you want to be a trendsetter, Matthew, you can. You can have Castle 85 on your jersey.
I don't know what those numbers mean. I assumed it was like top trumps. It's like how fast they run. So you can look at the number and you're like, well, that guy's fast, so I won't go near him with the ball.
So, well, if you have an 85, they're going to blow everyone out of the water.
Well, they have numbers in FIFA Ultimate Team, don't they?
Yeah,
That's the number they should have on the back of their thing in football. It's their FIFA Ultimate Team number.
They're slightly...
to really separate the wheat from the chaff. What's the lowest number in FIFA Ultimate Team? Is there one? There must be the worst footballer.
That's a terrific question. Who is the worst footballer? I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to think.
Find out for next week's episode. I want to know.
Okay. I will come back. So that is your news of the last 7 days. So now it's time to tell you about the games we've been playing in a little segment we like to call Show and Tell.
Show and Tell. Show and Tell. We can't afford a proper jingle. It's meant to be jingle.
Yes, show and tell is the part of the show where we show and we tell some gameplay footage of a video game we have recently played, and then we talk to each other about it and you as well, dear viewer. So, Matthew, I know you're currently in Bath and you are adhering to all lockdown rules and regulations, but you did stop off at the weekend or over the last couple of days for a little look at London town and how it's all been fucked up by, what's their names, the terrorist group Zero Day and Albion, the police force that is turning London to shit. So Watchdogs Legion, Matthew, I suppose, yeah, for anyone at home, what is Watchdogs Legion? What's it about?
It is obviously the next Watch Dogs game, which is Ubisoft's open world sort of hacking revolutionary game. You always play someone who's kind of up against the kind of technology of the state, and your powers, besides guns and hitting people with various implements, is the ability to hack people's personal information or hack the electronics in the world. So the kind of gimmick has always been in the past that you can sort of, when you're breaking into locations, you can do a lot of damage just as like as a digital intruder by using CCTV cameras to kind of spy on everyone and then turning the environment against them. And this has still got that. But the gimmick this time as well is that all the NPCs in the world are potential recruits for your movement. The game doesn't have a main character per se. It is an army of NPCs who you fold in and you absorb their various abilities, some that come with their jobs and equipment that come with their jobs. Some of them just have perks that are attached to them. So you might recruit a boxer who's got better at melee combat. You might get a computer hacker who can hack things from a greater distance, so it's much better at that kind of digital infiltration thing. So that's the game in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I have also played a decent chunk of this over the last week, and I think I've had my fill. Watch Dogs Legion, the idea of recruiting every single character is a very novel, and like when you first hear it, you go, oh, that sounds quite cool. You can play as anyone in this entire world. But in practice, what it results in is a story that I don't really care about because these are characters that I don't care about. Like every cutscene you're involved in, whatever character you choose to be, the lines just feel like such stock lines. Like the character is meant to say either yes or no, and you know they will have 100 ways of saying it for whatever character you play as. And the story is, it suffers because of that. I mean, it's not like it's, I don't know, this groundbreaking story anyway.
Yeah, it's weird because I'd say one of the big problems I've always had with the series is that its heroes haven't been very good. And I know there are some people who like the Watch Dogs 2 heroes, but I'm not mad about them. Like, you know, Aiden Pierce in Watch Dogs 1 is like almost like a legendarily shit character. Like he's just a man in a coat and a hat who's a bit sad. And the nature that they are like these people who are off the grid means they're quite not subtle characters, but you know, they keep themselves to themselves. They're not big, flashy personalities like by design, and it's never really clicked for me. So I didn't think we'd be losing much, but you are right. It feels very like pieced together, and it's like obviously required a huge amount of work to make this work, and to you know from the writing and just the design of the thing. But like, I haven't yet experienced anything where I felt like, oh yeah, this is really worth doing. You know, I was talking to a friend about this the other day. Like, it feels like it's halfway there to a really big systemic world that's interesting, almost in like it reminds me of like Shadow of Mordor, those games in a
Okay.
way, where in those games everyone was a character and there was this big hierarchy, and everyone being a character, kind of all the enemies all being characters made sense because you
Mm.
could mess with the hierarchy, you could set stuff up, and there were really interesting things that happen within that. Here, like making everyone a playable character is obviously a bit more complicated than that, but I don't feel like big repercussions at work. Like, apparently there are some. Like, people have said there are things like, you know, the characters they're related to can be like taken hostage, and like
Okay.
other stories can happen. Like, if you kill someone, their loved one will. You can then, you can see their loved one go to like the graveyard or whatever to like mourn them, and there are routines and
Right.
stuff. None of this has like emerged yet. Like the game hasn't done anything to surprise me. Like I just sort of I meet people. It gives me a slightly randomly generated mission to recruit them, which is always like just one of the boring activities in the world, but with a couple of lines of bespoke dialogue chucked in. So you might clear out a base and then you'll try and recruit someone, and then you'll have to go and clear out that base again. I mean, I don't know how it decides where to put these things, but in the time I've played it, which it's only been about like 10 hours, I think, like it's generated me 4 missions in Guy's Hospital, and I just keep going back to Guy's Hospital to recruit people, and it seems like that seems dumb to me because once
They've
I've worked out how to
created
do
this
it once,
massive world where you can.
and then it's like I'll be like, oh, don't tell me it's in Guy's Hospital. It's like my friend's being held in Guy's Hospital. There's this thing you need to get, and they don't say in Guy's Hospital. They're like at this location, but the game keeps sending me there, which is odd, which shows the limitations of it. It's like it's just dressing. It's more dressing for like the 10 things there are to actually do in this world.
It does feel a little bit. It feels like a dated open world game, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it would have a bit more. Admittedly, I'm not playing with the permadeath thing, and like that would probably add a bit of spice to it. Like I don't know if I can switch it on after the fact, but
I don't think you can.
Like you occasionally get a character where you're like, oh yeah, this person's actually really good, and I want them around. And in my game, if they're killed or arrested, that basically puts a timer on when I can use them next. That's the punishment. Where actually, if they died and were gone for good, I'd be, a little more sore about that.
Yeah.
And
there are clever. There are clever ideas. Like just to your point about if somebody dies, they go into hospital, or if somebody's arrested, they go into prison. Like if you then recruit a barrister, you're able to cut that person who's been arrested their time down, and like
yes,
they're cool little ideas.
But it's still like you get a barrister and it cuts down the cooldown timer. Like I want to go into the police station as the barrister and get them out. Like it feels like the key bits which would make those people feel like what they're meant to feel like are missing. Like some people have like equipment which is so kind of specific to them that they do feel like they have, like, when you play as them, there are tricks you can do with them, or there are like rhythms that unfold in play that are very specific to them, and that's cool. But a lot of them is mostly just me using the spider bot to clear everywhere out because I can give everyone a spider bot. It just that stuff doesn't quite click for me. I think the one thing I do think is quite interesting is the idea that there are certain areas where certain professions are welcome, and like there's a big story mission set in like a construction site, so if you go in with a builder you can just walk around it, a bit like Hitman. You can't go near any guards, but they won't open fire if you're in there. And I like the idea of like there are bits of the world certain characters can get into, and the idea of treating NPCs like Hitman disguises, but that just makes me want to play like a proper open world Hitman game rather than necessarily Watchdogs Legions. Also, the builder has that flying drone thing, which basically nukes most of the level designs, because there are loads of collectibles on rooftops where the puzzle is how to get on the rooftop from the floor. Unless you're the builder, you just get that, carry yourself up, jump off, pick up the thing. likewise, there are enemies where there are like enemy zones. Where there's all these enemies patrolling, and there's like the thing you have to activate is at the top of the base. You can just fly up to it with that and do it. And
but do you not think that Watchdogs Legion is better when it's less whole-faced? And
yeah, that is quite sandboxy and fun, but like it's also really, really easy. Like the game's a total pushover with the right couple of characters. And it isn't tonally, it doesn't quite mix, because it's so like, this is a really dire situation. We've got to take London back. And then the desire to just like use my phone to hack the world and go crazy. Like those two things,
I think the game would be better if it was more silly. If
like Saints Row, but with the powers of Watchdogs.
Yes.
Would be cool. Yeah. But instead it's the powers of Watchdogs and like a world where it's very serious and important and you should be taking this seriously. And
it's so hard
the guns in it are rubbish.
Yeah. But then it's like, I mean, in particular Watchdogs 2, it was, I felt like, if you're using the guns, it's like, this isn't like Watchdogs should be. But at the same time, the guns are in it, so you're going to be using the guns.
It's like a taser gun, isn't it?
Yeah, a little stun gunny.
So stun gun thing. Yeah, I don't know. It just.
I mean, the world itself of like the London that they've created, I think is quite nice. Like it is. Like if you've spent any time there, like the two of us at different points in our lives have lived in London, like it is. It's obviously a shrunken down, condensed version of the city, but you can go to places you've lived and recognize, or go to this bar or that road or whatever, like, which I'm sure Americans feel all the time because of all the games set in America. But it's a well created, like the city itself, I think, is well created. The people themselves, maybe not so much, because of like you're walking down the street and you just every second or third person is calling somebody else a fucking prick or a wanker or
I think the actual voice acting's okay though.
Yeah,
it's a little full on with the swearing, but it's okay. Like the actual range of like voices, I think is like it doesn't feel like a load of Americans doing it.
No,
I give you that.
Voices.
Yeah. Like the audio logs and things. There's some quite good send ups of like, like the London kind of talk radio, your kind of James O'Brien kind of phone in stuff, and there's some podcasts. Like some of it's quite well judged, and like you say, the actual like location, London itself, is quite fun to apply your real world knowledge and see that it kind of works. Like you can see literally the blocks that have been removed to compress certain areas. And it's quite fun playing like spot the difference where they've put like theaters where there aren't theaters and things like that. But like it's pretty neat as a what, like the most fun I've had is pottering around places that I know and going, oh yeah, this seems legit.
Like I think, I don't know, we probably ended up in the same place when it comes to Watchdogs Legion. There are some nice ideas, but I think in execution, it's it hasn't resulted in the smash hit that maybe they were expecting, and maybe some people even hyped up because of the idea of the main gimmick. The main gimmick being you can play as everyone, which then it just in the end it was like
I think even though like you can't talk about it in any kind of reviewy way, we're getting Yakuza Like a Dragon soon, which is obviously a very different game. But like in that game, the class system is based on like jobs. Like you go to a job center and instead of changing like from a wizard to a freaking knight or whatever, you take on a new profession and all your attacks become that. So like if you're the chef class, you can grind like a peppermill into an enemy's eyes or whatever. That to me is like the more comic booky version of kind of what I want from this, where the professions are like really fully realized. Admittedly, it's in an RPG setting, but like they're really distinct and they're really funny. And that's
from the trailers.
In the trailers and in the preview build.
And in the preview build, which I played and I spoke about, correct? Yeah.
So I think I'll be interested to see when reviews come out for that one. But to me, that's a better. It looks like a better running around, having a wild time in a city, playing with things like jobs. And very different. It's not an open world game; it's an RPG.
Yeah,
but
I like to like that is a very valid point. There are jobs in Legion that feel, the construction worker who has a massive spanner and I suppose, has a look in this world. Laborers have drones, sure. But at least there are things that make them who they are. Whereas there are multiple characters in Legion that not all of them, some of them have, traits related to their occupation or their personality, whatever it is. But there is just a lot of carryover in different characters.
I just wish they'd done like a really, and maybe this is something that happened later in the game, but like there was a really good bespoke mission for every profession. So like if you get the spy and then he just has a killer spy mission, rather than all their loyalty missions are just totally generic, where what you want is something really like, it's like, here's a spy, he's got his crazy spy car, here's a mission that you can only do using that crazy spy car. That's what that game really needs, but it don't have it. It do not have it.
It do not have it, indeed. Another thing it doesn't have is many scares. I wouldn't call it a scary game.
It feels like a segue.
But another game I wouldn't really call a scary game, Matthew, is the Dark Pictures anthology Little Hope. But the thing is, that's meant to be a scary game. So this is the second game in developer Supermassive Games' Dark Pictures anthology. The first was Man of Medan, which came out last year. And very, very disappointingly, was quite poor. Because they were coming off of the success, both critical and I believe commercial, for Until Dawn, which whilst it wasn't on PC, maybe a couple of you played it, it was terrific. Until Dawn fell down a little bit in the last third, but still terrific. So this, Little Hope is about a group of people, not really, for the first time, they're not doing the like sexy 20-somethings go out to a cabin or a boat or whatever to have sex and kiss and stuff. This is a group of all different people. They are college students and they've ended up in this creepy town called Little Hope. And I'll try, this is very story heavy, but I'll try and skirt around the details of it. They end up in this creepy town called Little Hope. Some weird things are happening, obviously enough. And they... some people from the olden times, they meet some of them. It's quite hard to talk around, but maybe that's all you need to know in terms of story.
Sounds like time travel.
Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Who knows? But I can tell you about the characters themselves, I suppose, and how uninspiring they are. Both their relationships to one another and the vocal performances. It is an oddly, edited, I suppose, because a lot of them are cutscenes. Like, if you don't know, this is a game that you watch a lot of it play out, and that's for some people, that's not for other people. I like from time to time. Again, I loved Until Dawn. And you play as all these different characters, and just it switches between them at different points, however, to aid the story, and you will have decisions to make, dialogue options, and there are also things within the world that you can pick up, and they will change the story somewhat, also. But the actual, the actual vocal performances of these people are so stilted, so wooden. Like, the things that are happening to these people are fucking terrifying. I'm not saying the actual game itself is scary, but what's happening to these people should be shitting them right up. And they're just like, oh, wow, that was crazy, wasn't it? It's like, no, that should be fucking crazy. Like, you should be losing your mind. Obviously without chewing the scenery. But like,
like you big ham.
but they should be just more scared, because if you're not scared, why should I be? There's also the editing in it is very strange. There's a lot of lingering pauses on characters where when talking to people, it will just get that them staring down the barrel in silence. It's very oddly put together in that way.
I like the main chap in other stuff. What's his name? Will Poulter.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he was in Man of Medan as well. He was one of the better things in Man of Medan, and he is one of the better things in this. See, there's one
Man of Medan.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, he was the shithead, the brother character. Yeah. You can Google. Yeah, you know he was. He was definitely. He's the only returning character in this, I think. But as well as your decision.
No, he's not.
Is he not?
No.
Who was he? He looks an awful lot like him. Who was the guy who played?
It was the guy from it was the guy from like Quantum Break.
No, he was in it as well.
He was the celebrity. He was the famous person.
But there was the brother. Was he not? Did he not play the brother? I thought he did. I thought he played like a shithead brother to somebody.
No.
Oh, well, all right. Well, he's in this.
All right.
And yeah, on top of the decisions and all that you have to make, you also have QTEs where if you're unsuccessful, characters may die, and that will change the story and, add some replayability, because if you want to go back and see how it would play out if a different character died or whatever else. But after finishing this, I suffered from the same thing I did with Man of Medan, which was that I didn't care about these characters, so I have no reason to go back and see how it would play out if so-and-so stayed alive or this person lived or whatever. But in saying all that, like, this is better than Man of Medan. And like, it's definitely, I suppose, maybe for this the future of the Dark Pictures anthology. And like they've announced the next game, House of Ashes, I think. Right. In the Dark Pictures anthology, which is next year. So the quality of this is definitely up. And there are a number of other characters that I can't really mention that are way better than these characters. And I kind of want to leave it at that because it is a little bit spoilery.
I think that the fundamental flaw at the heart of this anthology is the way it departs from what was good about Until Dawn, which is that Until Dawn felt like a journey through lots of different horror territory.
It was Scream. It was I Know What You Did Last Summer.
There's a bit of J horror in there. The whole tone of the game changes, and it's not like the horror experience you necessarily think. I didn't find it massively scary, I should say, but I did like how, I couldn't really predict where we'd be in 10 hours time in that game. And it was in quite a different place tonally and like horror genre wise, where by their very nature, these anthology stories kind of gives them that same sweep, but chops them into separate games. So you lose that, and as standalone thing, I know, admittedly, I've only played Man of Medan, which I really did not rate. Technically, it's quite impressive, the kind of the motion capture and all that. And I like the idea of an anthology game, but like I just didn't think it was scary. I found the information it gave you about the characters and what they remembered and what they didn't was really baffling. It's kind of like, ooh, Kelsey noticed that you liked bananas, and you're like, well, that's not important,
As much as I like bananas, but come on, yeah, I did. Like, this is like, it's better than Man of Medan, but I am the same as you. I thought Man of Medan was quite poor, just not scary, and I didn't care about anyone. And whilst that is the same in this, there are aspects, like there are characters in particular that I think are better performed. But again, I don't really want to go into it. I adore Until Dawn. It really struck a chord with me, probably because I grew up with like
in a cave as a monster.
watching your slasher 90s films. So like when it pulls on all that, like I don't know, it was just very appealing, and it kind of came out at the right time. It was basically the best version of a Quantic Dream game. In terms of the interactive experience, walking around, picking up items, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I've always thought that the Quantic Dream games are best when they lean heavily into genre stuff. I think when David Cage is trying to do like, you know, big, powerful human drama, it doesn't work as well. But the scenes where you're doing like mad sci-fi shit in the Beyond Two Souls, like for me, works better in a way than, you know, some of the stuff he did in Detroit, which was sort of sci-fi, but a little bit muddled with it. You know, everyone laughs and rolls their eyes at the cliches, but sometimes the cliches fit, and they fit quite broad, quick time event, silly games. It's when you try and think you're more sophisticated than the genre, I think they come unstuck.
And I mean, you never got sophistication from Until Dawn, and it was
that game's dumb as shit.
Yep, and it's absolutely terrific for it. But this again disappointing. Again disappointing. Was hoping for them to really kind of to see Man and Medan as a little blip. But I don't know. I'll be playing House of Ashes again, and fingers crossed.
There must be an appetite for it, you know.
Yeah.
For them to commit doing this thing. I don't know how the first one did, but you know, it must have done well enough that they keep rolling these out and they're committed to this horror project.
I mean, it did feel, when they announced it, it did feel a little bit. Oh, what was that called? Do you remember the Dark Universe with the Invisible Man?
Oh yeah, they didn't come to anything.
That's the like when they announced this was like an anthology, we're creating all the, like I remember after playing Man and Medan thinking, feels a little bit like that when you announce we're going to be creating this whole world, and you know the first game quite poor, second game bit better, but also still not up to the standard that you've set for yourselves previously. I don't know. Hopefully the next game will be better. So that's all the games we've been playing over the last 7 days, but now it is time to play a different kind of game. It's time for our weekly quiz that's sweeping the nation. It is time for Mystery Steam Reviews. Yes, Mystery Steam Reviews, our weekly quiz where we test each other's knowledge on Steam reviews. Yeah, I'll explain the rules in a minute. This week, I do want to say this from the start. We have gone for video games with a horror / spooky / scary setting, because Halloween has just come and gone. I mean, it would make more sense if we were doing it when it was coming up, but hey, we did say we were going to do games set in the United Kingdom. We'll do that next week. So yeah, we're doing scary games, horror games. Yeah.
It kind of nukes genre a little bit, but we'll see.
It does a little bit. So what we've said is maybe we might use, because you know on Steam, when it comes to genre, it will use like a number. Or what you could do is get Steam tags. So pick a Steam tag maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
We'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah. So the rules for Mystery Steam Reviews are as follows.
Yeah.
Colm and Matthew both bring 3 Steam reviews to the MSR arena, but they omit the name of the game associated with each review. Their opponent must correctly guess the game attached to each review. One correct answer equals 1 point. While both combatants have 90 seconds on each MSR, they both also have help in the form of 3 lifelines. These can be used at any stage during battle and also pause the 90-second timer. Each lifeline can only be used once, and the lifelines are as follows. Hot Seat Haver. Question is the lifeline. And that's where the Hot Seat Haver gets to ask a yes or no question. Second Opinion, which is where a second review is given to the warm chair sitter, a second review from Steam. And Genre. The genre of the game is revealed to the one with the warm arse. But as we say, we might we might pick it like Steam tags or something like that. So Matthew, is that all clear and correct?
Let's do it. May the thrashing continue.
So Matthew Castle,
I believe it's either 4-3 or 5-4 to me.
I was going to say 5-3. You're winning. You're winning by I've gone to the absolute dogs lately. Matthew, here is your first Mystery Steam review. Doom and Resident Evil had a baby. And that's from Crab. It's recommended 13.4 hours on record, 13.4 hours at review time, and your time starts now.
Very interesting. I mean, the temptation here is just to go Resident Evil 7, because it's saying it's first-person Doom. It's first-person and Resident Evil. But Doom is also... I don't know if I'm reading too much into this. Doom can also suggest, like, crazy high energy and, like, manic chaos, and that isn't Resident Evil 7. It's a very sedate game. I wouldn't, but maybe it's someone who's just trying to say FPS and can't express it with a better game. It's more like Doom. It's more like Resident Evil meets Half-Life, maybe. No, that's terrible as well. Doom and Resident Evil. Or is it Fear? Because Fear is like a famously... Oh, that's more hectic. That's more of a first-person shooter. How do you feel about Fear, Colm? Do you fear that I'm going to get more points than you in this quiz?
Yes.
I think you've got every right to. You know what? Screw it. Fuck Resident Evil 7.
What?
I'm saying Fear.
Matthew Cass, is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
So, Matthew Castle, you said the first person made you think, or Doom, made you think of first person games. You were going down that little tangent. You've ended up on Fear, a beloved cult classic, I think, to many. And I can tell you that Fear is incorrect.
Oh, if it's Resident Evil 7, I'm going to...
It's
not.
not.
I don't know what I'm going to do. Okay.
It's not Resident Evil 7, so you can take some solace in that. The correct answer is Dead Space.
But what? Dead Space isn't a first-person game. Well, what does Dead Space and Doom have in common?
There's guns and,
there's guns
there are
everything.
monsters.
There
aren't guns and everything. Come on, like, there are guns in it, there are monsters.
You're like, wow, this is so much like Doom. Like, it's the survival horror game, third person. No.
But it's like, if Doom and Resident Evil had a baby, it's not like they would take on all the traits of both Resident Evil and Doom. Like,
but I'd argue they should have a test for see the real dad is, because it's not Doom.
Let's get Jeremy Kyle in. And
if Resident Evil and Alien had a baby, I'd be like, yes, I can see there's both of the parents in this baby. But here I'm like, they're like, oh, this is my husband, Doom. He's the father. And this is my friend, Alien. And I'm looking at the friend, and I'm like, oh yeah, just the friend, eh? Because, rubbish.
Matthew, can I have my first Mystery Steam review, please?
Yes, you can. Not an FPS. There are no guns. This is a walking simulator with jump scares. Not Lord 420 does not recommend it after 2.7 hours on record. Fucking Nut Lord. That tells you everything you need to know about this guy.
Time starts now. Not an FPS. There are no guns. This is a walking simulator with jump scares. So, specifying it isn't an FPS would imply that it is still in the first-person viewpoint. There are no guns. This is a walking simulator. A walking simulator with jump scares. Ooh. A walking. Okay, so. Right, okay. Walking simulator with jump scares. So you've no guns, so you're going to be running away from the things, which then makes me think of the frictional games thing, and their back catalogue, which reminds me of last week.
A glorious moment.
Okay, I'm going to say this is one of frictional games' and this is going to be Amnesia: The Dark Descent, or I mean, it could be. It was the Chinese Room did that, wasn't it? A Machine for Pigs, or Soma, or the recent one, Rebirth. Because I'm frightened of Soma, I think Matthew Castle, I'm going to say Soma. Final answer.
So your final answer is Soma?
It has to be Chris because I can't get another one that's Soma wrong. I can't get it wrong.
So this is Soma, which last week you gave as the wrong answer to Bioshock 2 and said Bioshock 2 when it was in fact Soma. You've got a bad history with this game. This could help you pull it back. The correct answer is Soma.
Yes! Yes! Get in!
My mind games did not work. I thought you'd forget about Soma, and then I'd say Soma again, and it would make you really cross. I was really looking forward to that, so I'm quite sad you got it right.
No, that's memory is burned into my skull. So Soma was fresh on the brain, so quite happy with that. Off to a rip-roaring start. Brilliant. Matthew Castle, would you like your second Mystery Steam review?
Give it to me, Chris.
Game is short, but also very replayable. I played the campaign Tilda 5 times and had a lot of fun each time I did. And that's from Nightmare, which is quite an apt username, I suppose, for these scary games. It's recommended. 21.4 hours on record, 21 hours at review time. Your time, Matthew, starts now.
I'm going to get straight in there and ask for the second review.
Ooh, okay. We're going to pause the timer. And we're going to enact Matthew's second opinion. So your second review is as follows. I forgot this. Utterly disgusting. The game can be completed in 1 hour, and most people do it in 5. Not only this, but the developer have taken it upon themselves to put extra effort into the bundled multiplayer game that nobody asked for, and most people don't even want.
Oh.
It's not recommended, just in case you were wondering.
Yeah.
With 28.4 hours on record. And your timer restarts now.
Hey, I don't see how you can complain about it being an hour long when you've somehow played it for 28 hours. So, you know, that's suspicious. I'm going to admit, I thought this was going to be oxen-free. But the mention of a multiplayer mode makes me think it is not oxen-free. Because that does not have a multiplayer mode.
Are you sure?
Unless there's a secret mode where you have like a sass off down at the bonfire.
There may have been. I don't know.
I mean, the 5-hour thing, the 1 hour completion time, the multiplayer mode, I'd say this is pretty comfortably pointing to Resident Evil 3.
Are you sure you're chuckling away to
I'm
yourself?
willing to stop the clock on that. I think.
Oh,
I think
really?
this is going to be because Resident Evil 3 also had a not very good multiplayer mode, and you could do it in 5 hours. Yeah.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
So the first Steam review led you to Oxenfree, but it was the second opinion, and that's how you've ended up at Resident Evil 3.
Yeah.
Short game. It is a short game. Does have multiplayer, but is it this mystery Steam review?
Give me that sweet win now.
I can tell you that Resident Evil 3 is the right answer. Well done.
Easy peasy.
Well done, Matthew Castle. So that is 1-1. However, did you get it?
Good use of the clue, I think.
Great use of the clue. So, Matthew, what's next? Oh, it's me. It's my second mystery Steam review, please.
If Resident Evil and Alan Wake had a baby, it would be this game. Rihanna Games recommends it up to 26.5 hours, 25.5 hours. My God, has Resident Evil
It's been busy. Yeah, very busy. Time starts now. Resident Evil. I'm blushing. So Resident Evil and Alan Wake had a baby, it would be this game. I love the short. If this game and this game had a baby. I have lifelines to use, so why not pause the timer? And Matthew, can I have? Why not? Can I have my genre, please?
Okay, so this is. It's technically a horror game, but let's see what it says. Let's see what it says on Steam for this one.
Resident Evil and Alan Wake. Resident Evil and Alan Wake.
Genre.
Or the tags.
It says genre action, comma, adventure.
Okay.
Tags. Couple of tags: horror, survival horror, psychological horror.
Okay.
The Steam genre is action adventure.
Okay. Gonna restart the timer now. Action adventure, horror, an action adventure. So what is it? Resident Evil and Alan Wake. Horror game where you use a torch.
That's most horror games.
Control wouldn't be considered a horror, would it? And it's a little bit on the nose as well if it was Alan Wake and Resident Evil. Just because it's Remedy.
Oh,
I mean,
okay. I can see why you'd make that connection.
But that's like Control isn't a horror game. But maybe you've picked Control. I mean, there are
I'd
scary.
say Control has horror elements.
It does have horror elements. See, is he trying to push me to Control? Or is he trying to save himself just in case it is Control? Oh, Matthew, I can't get Control out of my head now. Oh, dear. I'm going to have to say Control, I think. Control, final answer.
That's your final answer is Control.
It's my final answer, Chris.
You've come to this via Alan Wake. You think if Resident Evil and Alan Wake had a baby, it would be this game.
Maybe there's kind of like, do you know, the lads in Control, they're kind of zombie-like, I suppose. Ish.
I can see the connection. The correct answer is The Evil Within 2.
Okay.
It's a survival horror like Resident Evil. It's a bit open world like Alan Wake. I think that's more of a parental match than Doom and Resident Evil for Dead Space. If I were to meet two sets of parents, I would be less worried about Resident Evil and Alan Wake's baby being the Evil Within 2. I would not think they'd stolen that from the hospital.
Like if Resident Evil was going out with Doom and, you know, you saw a bit of flirtatious electricity between Resident Evil and Alan Wake, you would go, I think they're better together. I think they would, you know, they should pursue that perhaps.
I've just realised
Doom can find love elsewhere.
You can't meet them as two separate couples because Resident Evil is the constant across all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, so it would have to be, like Alan Wake would just be a friend, perhaps. Or I don't know, yeah, a suitor.
It's a confusing setup.
It is,
I'd say
indeed.
Resident Evil would have to be divorced if they were married, separated if they weren't, from Doom and is now with Alan Wake. And you're like, your baby makes sense. Your old baby does not.
Fingers crossed, Resident Evil sees the light and gets with Alan Wake. So, Matthew, would you like your third and final Mystery Steam review?
Well, let's do this.
Would you kindly? And that's from Elisar. It's recommended 14.6 hours on record, 13.6 hours at review time. Your time starts now.
I mean, this is a fucker, because it says Bioshock. Hit me up with the genre. Pause that clock and hit me up with the genre.
Oh, we're going to give him a genre. So, let me just find this here. Dearie me. Where? See, I have the tags. Where's the genre in Steam?
You scroll it down a bit.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Action, adventure, and some tags for you. Horror.
Right.
Atmospheric, story rich. Is that, I feel like
it's okay. Yeah, okay.
Is it like there's a couple of other tags, but I'm like they're like dead to give away.
Okay.
So will I restart the timer? Restarting the timer.
I mean, Bioshock is a horror game, but it puts me in the realms of like Bioshock 1, Bioshock 2. That's confusing. I feel like you wouldn't give me Bioshock like that unless you're trying to give it to me easy. Question. Well, I may as well use my question. It's the last one.
Okay, we're going to pause the timer. Matthew, what's your question?
How can I separate Bioshock 1 and 2?
Remember, it's a yes or no.
Oh, it's a yes or no. Well, how actually? I don't know if it is. I mean, Do you have a gun in this game?
Okay, let me double check. I am going to say yes.
Oh.
I am going to... Hold on, what was the question? Oh, no, do you have a gun?
Do you have a gun?
Sorry. No, I'm going to say no.
Okay.
I'm going to say no. And I'm going to restart the timer now.
I think you are trying to fuck me with Soma. I think Soma is so like Bioshock that someone might write "Would you kindly" as a review for Soma. Because when I was looking for reviews for Soma, there are lots of people who are like, it's like Bioshock, it's like Bioshock. Also, if it doesn't have a gun, it can't be Bioshock. I think it's Soma. I think you want to get me with the old Soma because of last week. You're trying to get your revenge. And you will not have your revenge in this life or the next, sir, as he said in Gladiator.
So
he said that in Gladiator.
Is that your final answer, Soma?
Soma, yeah.
So Matthew, you were thinking about, would you kindly, is it just obvious, and is it one of the Bioshocks? Asked a question. No guns in this game, it's led you to Soma. So I can tell you that Soma is the right answer. Well done. Well done. Couldn't catch you with the old Soma trick there.
You can't Soma the Somaman. Mr. Soma. You can't get a Soma past me.
So
You're being so clever.
I wonder if we could fit Soma into Mystery Steam reviews every week. Is there any bits set in Britain? Matthew, can I have my...
You gotta get up.
Try and draw
early
this.
in the morning to catch old Castle out.
Can I have my third and final Mystery Steam review, please?
They describe it as a slideshow with jump scares. Nobody over 30 would find this point-and-click scary. 2 out of 10. That's Okihara Jones. They do not recommend it. After 1.0 hours on record, 1.1 hours at the time of review.
Okay, time starts now. A slideshow with jump scares. Nobody over 30 would find this point-and-click scary. So it's a horror point-and-click? Alright, well I'm going to pause the timer. And can I have a second review, Matthew, please? A second opinion. No. I'd love one of them, please.
Okay. If you're under 5 years of age, steal your mom's credit card and buy this.
Quite a shit second review. I mean, that's what the other... Alright, okay, I'll leave the timer paused. And I'm going to ask a... No, I'll just start it because I had nothing to ask. So I'm going to restart the timer. I'm going to see, what question could I ask?
I can't believe you're using your time to work out the question.
I'm just trying to think, like, what are scary point and clicks? Machinarium? They're kind of like quite childlike. I mean, you can tell I've never played Machinarium.
I'm telling you, this is a horror game.
Okay.
I'm not dicking you around with isn't a horror game. This is a horror game.
Look, let's pause the timer. I'm going to use my question. And I'm going to ask you, Matthew. I don't know how it would help me, but... Is this a point-and-click adventure game?
I haven't actually played it. Let me have one sec.
Basically, is the review stating fact? Or is it lies?
I'd say no.
Okay. So restart the timer now. Oh. What's the slideshow thing about? Slideshow. Now you mentioned Oxenfree earlier, which has made me remember, like, I suppose, I mean, if Oxenfree was in your head,
that is a point-and-click adventure.
Is it a point-and-click adventure? Shit, I've no time. Oh no! I can't think of anything. Yeah, Oxenfree!
Is that your final answer?
Yes, Chris, sorry for screaming in your face.
I can tell this is an answer you're really committed to from how you delivered it on the zero at a screen.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Oxenfree? I don't know what spiel I'm trying to do. Let's just get to the bit where I say if it's right or not. The correct answer is Five Nights at Freddy's.
Shit.
I thought you were going to get that one.
I forget Five Nights at Freddy's even existed.
But it's got like a mouse-based interface. You're cutting between security cameras, so it's like a slideshow. I thought the references to kids, no one over 30s, and if you're under 5, because kids play it, don't they? Because they like it. It's scary. Sorry, I really thought I was throwing you a bone with that one. But instead, you are a bonehead.
I'm just happy that I didn't get somed this week. So happy enough with that.
But neither did I.
Yeah.
And I want to be a good sportsman at this, but the lead, oh my god.
It's insurmountable. I'm just playing week by week now, Matthew. We can present you with the trophy now already. It's fine. But yes, congratulations again, Matthew. An excellent win for you. Fucking Oxenfree. Jesus wept. So yes, that's your mystery Steam reviews for the week. So now it is time. This is going to be a little bit tricky to take your burning questions. This is pre-recorded, so for that reason, I only have. A couple of burning questions here for you, Matthew. One from Mike C, who asks, do you still buy physical disc games for your consoles, or have you shifted to full digital libraries like we have on PC?
Say that again?
Do you buy physical games on console?
Sorry, I was thinking about my win in Mystery Steam reviews. It was good.
Did you get the question that time?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
No, I don't. I think the only physical games I occasionally buy are Nintendo Switch games.
Why? Just out of curiosity, why them and not?
Mainly because they're just digitally, they're a pain to share and shift around. So a physical copy of the game makes sense. No, mostly digital. I'm not really a keeper of stuff. I don't really collect all my games collection from the past. I only keep the discs. I throw out all the boxes. So I don't have any box copies of it. I've just got wallets full of discs of things. I'm not very nostalgic for clutter.
It varies with me, to be honest. If something's wherever it's cheaper, basically that's all it comes down to. If it's cheaper to buy the physical version, then I'll buy that.
That's why I think people are getting really stung by these disc-free PS5 because they're like, it's cheaper, and it's like, you're going to be paying 70 quid for every game from the PlayStation shop. So have fun with that.
Yeah, big time. And Vandalay asks, with the dawn of a new console generation coming soon, what gaming trends do you expect to see continuing or changing? Is there anything that you would like to see? Personally, I'm expecting to see Microsoft doubling down on Game Pass and delivering games via subscription. The games will likely need to change in order to make this sustainable, offering shorter and more focused experiences, whilst bigger games follow the games as service mold. PlayStation will be the counter to that, continuing to focus on larger single-player games. What I would like to see is multiplayer games with meaningful persistence. Games like your Battlefields should have meaning behind each game, rather than them being independent matches. Something along the lines of PlanetSide would be a really interesting model, and one that could likely be better achieved with modern systems. So, what gaming trends do you expect to see, and what gaming trends would you like to see?
Yeah, I think that's kind of on the money with the Xbox Game Pass stuff, that and we've already seen the kind of games that work well for them are short, little punchy things like Don't Nod's game. I'd like to see more episodic gaming as part of Game Pass. I'd like to see more of a kind of little story dollops told over several months. That would make sense. You'll see more early access stuff on console. In terms of other trends, I don't know. Everyone keeps talking about these, the super fast loading and what that's going to mean. Currently on the next gen, that just means current gen games that load really fast, rather than like a substantially different design that allows you to have bigger worlds.
Like I suppose in terms of new, I don't know, just like maybe it's not a trend. Well, I suppose it could be a trend. I'd love it if a trend developed where we just got new series, because this was the generation where it was a lot of reiteration and continuing on, where we mentioned it earlier, Far Cry 6 or Gears 5 or Halo 5, like it's all just, and like I'm not saying any of them in particular are bad or anything. There's a number of those games I really enjoyed, but just new characters, new stories, new universes is what I like.
Yeah, this was a really weird generation in that sense, because a lot of the stuff we have now is the same stuff we had at the start of the generation. I'd say the only major difference is Destiny heralding like games as service, and a lot of games going that way, seasons and this kind of stuff. I guess the Battle Royale thing is also the other big new genre. Like those new genres, where they come from, it's so hard to say. I'd like to see. Recently, it feels like we've had some quite interesting stuff happen on PC with like Phasmophobia and what's that? The murder one. The murder mystery.
Among Us.
Among Us. These weird. They seem to kind of. Those games were there. They just then grow massively, I guess, because of streaming audiences rather than anything the developers did in particular. But I guess that's about like discoverability. It's.
I don't know. In terms of what I think will continue, microtransactions, loot boxes. Like you may get more free to play games, I suppose, and developers focusing on the like. We'll get the money out of you through cosmetics, weapon skins, blah de blah. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. There's no reason for this trend to happen, but a big return of or more single player adventures. I thought what was really interesting towards the tail end of this generation was something like A Plague Tale, which I wouldn't say was like AAA in terms of like the most expensive end. It's not like a Naughty Dog budget, but I kind of enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed The Last of Us. I think what the trend I guess I'd like to see is the kind of whatever that mid tier between AAA and indie, that kind of B tier kind of publishers kind of being on the rise and basically doing stuff where it isn't the flashiest thing, but it's kind of like a more polished version of the kind of the games we had a lot more of on like the last gen. Your kind of
Second Sight,
psyops, that kind of stuff. And it's still a gamble, but it did really well. There's an appetite for it. There's enough of an appetite to support it at that kind of Plague Tale level. You couldn't sell Plague Tale numbers with the Last of Us budget, I don't think. That wouldn't be sustainable. But I'd like to see more interesting stuff from people like Focus. Is that kind of tier of publisher, not one of the biggies, but kind of on the rise. Continue making good choices, making games people actually want to play. That's a trend I'd like.
And would you say and tiered pricing? So like,
I mean, was Plague Tale? I don't think that was 50 quid when it came out, was it? I can't really remember, to be honest.
I can't remember either. Yeah. But I mean, like, well, that's the the formula now, and the game I spoke about earlier, Little Hope, like that isn't a quote unquote full priced game. That is slightly discounted.
Yeah, so Plague Tale was like 40 quid.
Okay.
And I probably got, your mileage may vary. I'm quite happy paying 40 quid for a 12-hour thing that I really like. I'll pay 20 quid for a film that I really like on DVD. So, it kind of adds up. But I know there are some people who are like, and it is a lot of money. And I get that some people want more, but more means a particular kind of game. A single player story game can't be that long just because it won't sustain itself or be interesting. So if you want more, play your games and services, but you can't complain about wanting more and then complain about having those games and services because they are more. That's what more is.
I agree. A return just to, or just more single player story based action adventure-y style games that are.
I like all that stuff. I'm a sucker for it.
12 to at a push 14 hours. Like, yeah, give me them, please. So that's kind of all our burning questions. Unless you have any for me, Matthew, or so. I mean, we've actually overran, so I suppose that it's probably as good a time as any to first of all tell you everything above board, dear listener. Greta isn't going to be on the show this week. Mainly because this is pre-recorded, we've told you that now numerous times, and Greta is currently, whilst we're recording this, she's in bed, she's snoozing. So I don't want to interrupt her, and I'll be in touch, and we'll get her on next week because all going to plan, we should be live next week.
So America hasn't just vanished into some kind of abyss because of whatever happens at the election. Oh
Christ, you're right.
Just think the next Weekspot could be in a brave new world.
Fingers crossed. Jesus wept.
Where Americans, the demon's been sent to jail.
Americans, if you're watching this,
by the same people who did Epstein.
Americans, if you're watching this, please go out and vote. For the love of God, get that gobshite out of the place, will you? But that just about does it for this week's edition of the PC Gaming Weekspot. So thank you very much, dear viewer and dear listener, for consuming this wonderful episode. Of course, if you want more from the Weekspot boys, there are other ways to get to us. You can follow us on social media. I am at Colm_Ahern. Matthew is at Mr. Basil_Pesto. You should also talk to some lovely people over on Discord. Discord.gg/Rock Paper Shotgun. And of course, seeing as you're here on YouTube, you can like, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell, which means you'll never miss any episode of the PC Gaming Weekspot in the future. But for all of your PC gaming needs, keep it on rockpapershotgun.com. Matthew, a pleasure to chat to you today.
As always.
Even through a pre-recorded thing, but I think that went pretty well. And even the bit that was fucked up, they'll never know about.
Yeah.
But
yes. Have some good spicy games next week as well.
Yes, indeed, we will. So, now it's time for my least favourite part of the show. Matthew Castle, please say goodbye to the lovely viewer.
Goodbye.
And say goodbye, Colm Ahern, Sloan, the Fool.